Hey guys, you guys know what handbalancing is? You probably should. You know? Well, we have a hand balancer from a show from Las Vegas. To have a perfect handstand, alignment is the most important. Alignment. Yeah, figuring out how to stack things one on top of each other like bricks, you know? If your entire body is aligned, everything is extended, you can rotate around the center as much as you want. But the sense of like where your core from your center is, that's the most important. I mean, it's kind of a general concept, but feeling your as one at the same time instead of a bunch of separated parts.
Okay, so I'm sitting here with my friend Andrey Moraru, and Andrey, he's a performer. He was one of the original cast at Cirque at the Wing in Vegas. Hi Andrey.
Hello, how are you?
Great, 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 and very glad that we get to finally get all of our conversation recorded and cover a whole wide range of topics that we've been wanting to talk about.
Absolutely.
So actually one thing that I wanted to start with was we've been training for a while together. We've been training each other, and so I went this morning to the beach to do the workout and all the drills that you've been giving me. And actually I was really surprised that I pretty much succeeded all of them, which was really great. You know, the hands and the side to side, and then the cartwheel, I was really hitting on both sides, the balance coming down,
cool.
Shifting side to side and taking a step back and forth. Everything was, and then the spinning one way, the other way.
Oh,
so, yeah, I was really paying attention to all. You've been giving me so many valuable tips, and so different than the way that I've been training before. And then I even went on the stairs, the high and low, and I pressed up and I did open close. On one side I did 2 and holding to certain coming down. On the other side I only did 1, and I was also pressing. I was tricky, you know, because it's less scary when I go up slow.
Sure.
But I was really happy to do that. But one thing that I wanted to talk about was you know, I've played with balancing for many years, and I can already hold 10-second handstand on one arm, and the way that the people that I worked with and the way that I've been training been very you know, not very scary. I mean, there's always a little fear factor, but everything was really, you know, built in a very, you know, little step by little step, in a way that made great sense, and in a sense maybe more similar to the way I put a conditioning program.
Sure.
And then you stepped into the picture, and your way is completely radically the other side of the equation. You basically completely threw me off and did all this stuff that was very simple drill, but yet very scary. And then your approach came almost like you just threw me out of the comfort zone, which was your goal, as you were saying, and very different approach. And I put quite a bit of work, but now it just clicks, and I feel like it didn't take that much work, and I like it because there's so much creativity. I feel like it's so different than everything I did before, but that's the freedom that I want it to be. I see Balancer going, and they're so free, and like you have so much ability to do so many things, and other people just hit those positions. So, and that's the way I've been training. So
Sure.
Just open up my brain, and it's just so right. So yeah, I mean.
Oh yeah, no, it's excellent. It's my pleasure. I mean, I've always been interested in approaching the training process from a very personal point of view, so to speak. You know, what does it mean to you personally to be involved in practicing this discipline? You know, there are a lot of people have different answers. what you often hear is, oh, I'm addicted, it feels so good. There's something happens along the way where when you're starting to figure out how it works, little by little, the littlest achievements feel like, you know, you own the world.
So true, you know. Funny, you know, I come with the background of capoeira and acrobatics and flipping, and there's like a sort of freedom when you fly in the air and you can do different body shapes and stuff in the air and you still land it. And I remember the first time that I did like 10-second handstand on one arm, and I remember thinking, whoa, I mean, I'm actually on one arm, I'm not flying in the air, but somehow I feel the same freedom, like there's something very liberating about it. I felt like it gave at least the same satisfaction of being free in the air. It's less free, but actually gave me maybe even more satisfaction, and flying through the air feels easy, but one arm is not easy. So
yeah, you know, I like to think of it as floating in the air, holding on to the ground with only one hand. You know, basically think of a no gravity environment when it's pulling you up, but you're holding on to the ground with only one hand, as opposed to, oh, I'm standing on one hand, which is how it starts usually. Yeah, man, I mean, there are many different ways to approach your handstand practice, but I would say what's important is to figure out why you're starting it. What is that impulse that drove you to begin the practice in the first place? And what does it mean to you personally? You know, is it for fun? Is it for joy? Are there, you know, more serious goals? Do you want to build a piece that you want to present in front of an audience? Or you just want to improve your overall skill level? You know, being quite clear about what caused you to start it, you know, so long as you're true to that and you recognize it, it will take you down long road for sure.
Right, definitely. I mean, definitely you see a lot of people doing balancing, and for sure different people do it for different reasons and purposes.
Right.
That is, of course, very true.
Right.
How do you know, I'm thinking like also, you know, there's such a big scene now of hand balancers and people doing that. And it seems like your take is so different. I mean, I don't know, you probably think also that it's different, or it just look to me that it's different?
I hope it's different. I mean, I hope that what I have to offer has something on the personal level to every person that watches my work. I approach it from the imaginative point of view as opposed to the skill-driven mentality. You know, it started off as a, you know, my imagination sparked the flame that drove me to pursue this discipline. And it started out with me drawing. You know, I used to love to draw. I used to carry a notepad with me everywhere, to school, at home, everywhere I went I used to draw. And then it continue on to me watching martial arts movies, you know, and their training process, and like, you know, how it all combined with the story. It was incredibly inspiring. You know, I started exercising with a staff and trying to do cartwheels.
What age is that?
The age was probably 10 years old, I would say. 10 years old. And then after that, one of my friends was already attending a circus school in my hometown. And then he introduced me to the teacher, and then, you know, I saw the guys from the little circus studio perform one day on a stadium, and they were doing a lot of acrobatic elements, which inspired me a lot because I saw that in some of the movies that I was watching. And then when I came to the studio, and my father brought me there, and I saw my teacher's son, who just came back from Kiev for the break, and he hopped on his hands. And he did a few handstands, and then my life has never been the same.
How old were you then?
Then I was 11. That was my first year.
So that's when you started.
First year. And then actually after that, who greatly influenced me at one point was Anatoly Zalewski. You know, it's the guy that basically created a great way of storytelling through the language of the body. And that really shifted my idea as to why I wanted to do hand balancing and what I wanted to say with that. And that kind of influenced a lot of my choices up until a certain point where I realized, like, okay, this has been great, but from this point on, I'm gonna find what's true to me. And I've been doing it ever since.
I think something also that is very interesting that also I think separates you from the balancer crowd is that you are 6 foot tall. Is that how tall you are?
Right, 6'2", I think, or
6'2".
3. I don't
So-
even want to know.
You don't, you don't know. But basically, the forces that working on your body are because of your length are much higher. It takes much more strength, and there's people doing it that are very built and strong, but you are not like very strong. So you working on a very fine tuning, very perfected alignment to everything that you do as a very technical skill, as opposed to muscling and being able to power through move, and you don't even work too much on that strength aspect that seems like a lot of balancer and movers now they try
Sure.
to. I mean, I'm sure that the strength element help people to catch it earlier, even with not so good technique, but you definitely refine your skill, and very impressive, the stuff that you do considering.
Thank you.
So, but when you were a kid, you weren't that tall yet, or were you?
No, I started out. I can't even say in how much how tall I was or how little I was. I was quite a bit lower than I am now. I mean, I was
Right.
nearly as tall.
But but this approach, because right now it's your philosophy, it's your approach to really work on a skill and not use power for
Right.
the work that you do. But when you were a kid, was that a consideration since you were not as tall? Was that a consideration at all? Was that something that led you from the beginning? You were like, I'm gonna have to be efficient because I'm tall and not that strong? Or maybe in the beginning, did you try to get there with strength?
You know, I was never really strong physically. Like, I had, my strength came in other areas as opposed to just a pure display of physical strength.
Yeah.
You know, I knew I wasn't the strongest guy, and I was very flexible, and I still am flexible. And, you know, I saw a lot of the power elements that other hand balancers did when I was in Kiev, for example. And it was very inspiring, and to me I was like, okay, I had to get it, you know, I had to learn it, because it was a question of, okay, can I do it or not? Because I'm so tall, I was pretty much already giving the idea that I would not be able to do it, and yet I've learned some of those very hardcore elements in hand balancing through practice and through application of, you know, a particular technique, which allowed me to do it even before then some of my other friends that were stronger and not as tall as me were able to do it.
Yeah.
And I would say I would give to anyone who feels like, oh my God, I don't have enough strength or I don't have enough balance. If you are very passionate about hand balancing, you absolutely must find something that works for you personally, because what you see out there on the web or on TV, that's basically worked for the people that present it, you know, it worked for them personally. And this is how I teach also, is like, I'm gonna show you the way I do it and the way I've learned it, but then I'm gonna give you a complete freedom to learn from as many people as possible and then get the best thing. And so if a circus artist, you know, who's just starting out, or a body practitioner, you know, hand balancing practitioner who's just starting out and inspired by what they see, it's great to be inspired. Don't ever get discouraged, you know, because there's always something original for each person to find. And this is what I'm working even more now, because some of the power tricks, like, it's not really my area of expertise. My area of expertise is using my imagination to the best of my ability to tell you a story with physical elements, as you call them, tricks, to be a special effect. You know, if you're watching a movie, you're watching a story, and then special effects are there to give you cream on the cake. So that's
Right.
how I approach my
Yeah.
work.
Right, definitely. I mean, definitely you see that. You recently put that video that you won an award at
Paris.
in Paris, and that was the production Moulin Rouge.
No, it was so it was Anyway Production, which is the company I work with that is based in France. My friend Robert Moraine introduced me to his manager Lorenzo, and that's how it got started.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got 2 awards. One was special prize from Moulin Rouge, and then bronze medal.
Yeah.
You know,
That was just a beautiful act. I mean, the dance piece that you put around it, your character, how you walk on the stage, and how the character suddenly lit up, and then you get a little bit on the hand, a little bit down, and it just, when you walk in, you're like, oh, okay, now the guy walks in. Like, there's nothing. But little by little, you kind of captivate the imagination there, and definitely everything that you say, that act was so rich in so many elements. It was
Thanks,
really
man.
inspiring. I was like, whoa. So looked like the stage had like some 40 people, but you're the one who got the main prize, and they're all performers. So.
Yeah, I mean, my idea in what I do is I try to expand my view of art world as much as possible. And actually, my friend Victor Gathing, he was very good at pushing me in that direction, because I may have had those ideas, but the initial push you get from people that care about you, and that's what he did for me. And I like to combine my performances with as many elements that feel right and feel authentic to me as possible, because I feel like the tricks should just kind of keep your interest, basically, not in the way where the performance is boring, but I feel like every other element of performance has to be as strong as the elements themselves.
So true.
You know what I mean?
So true.
Like just as strong, be it acting, dancing, character work, or handstands themselves. You know, if all elements are combined, then you, whoever I'm doing it for, which is all of you, you know, get something more than just a physical skill. You get information downloaded there.
And you know, it's kind of funny, and it's also interesting that we connected, because we come from different arts, but we have so many similar philosophies and so many things that we are on exactly same wavelength. And I come from Capoeira, and you know, a lot of the things that you said, like you might as well be a capoeirista and say it about Capoeira, because Capoeira is also a performing art, and not just to the level that I'll go on stage and perform in front of a crowd, which I grew up doing right from the beginning, but every time I play Capoeira, when I give a class and we play Capoeira at the end of the class in a circle, it's a performance. I mean, I'm playing someone, I try to catch him, it's real. The moment we have, it's not something that we prepared, we're not doing a routine, it's in real time. But as I'm engaging this person and conversing like I'm with you, but with our bodies, there is a circle of people looking at us, and I'm giving them a show. It's a spontaneous show. Sure. I didn't think about it ahead of time, so the show has a lot of parts, and so the wee little tricks, the tricks mean something. It means, hey, I can play you, catch you, and still do tricks.
Right.
Basically, but it's not just about the tricks. The tricks are just like you said, the embellishment. People call floreo, like the little flowers in the big field of whatever else is there. So we work a lot on the connection, on the quality of the movement, on so many different movement pattern, on engaging in a combat in a sense. But there's also dancing, so it needs to be pretty because it's a dance. And then all this connection thing, it's really like that's the thing. The tricks are just a little aspect. So Capoeira is always a performance art. If you're not a performer, in Capoeira you become a performer whether you're performing or not. You on stage, that's just one aspect of the performance, and performance is one element that you practice because it's a rich art, just like what you do. So interesting, you know, for me to get that.
No, absolutely. And again, my friend Victor suggested the idea that I contact you and that we start training together, because you know, Capoeira is one, I feel like it's such a vast repository of different, you know, ways to create a body language, you know, that I feel like I could tap into that and extract some of the elements that I could include in my stories, so to speak, you know. Like I would suggest to anybody to try out as many different disciplines as possible, because that's what's gonna, you know, keep you evolving. Because it's very easy to focus on just one thing. And you know, if you ask me, like, if you look at me as a hand balancer, well, that's just one of the things that I'm doing. You know what I mean? That's one of the many things that I'm interested in. You know, I wouldn't let it define me indefinitely. And I would say that I'm learning a lot from what you have to offer and your knowledge, because your background is so extensive, you know, and fills up the things that I am lacking in, you know, because for me, the technical knowledge, I'm not that interested in like the labels and the numbers and all of that stuff. I'm more about the spontaneity and what comes in the moment. But I feel like the combination of both is the best thing, and that's why I feel like whatever we can produce together will have all of those elements combined, and that would help people get both sides of the story, you know, the philosophy, the knowledge, the practice, the numbers, the technicalities, and the inspiration behind it.
Right. And that's definitely, I mean, you know, in the second I think we'll talk about the book, but
Right.
but actually I wanted to point that out too, because you know, over the years I worked with a lot of high caliber people in the performance field. I work with many performers, and I perform in Cirque number.
Nice.
So a lot of performers been taking my, including Vic Gedding, they've been taking my class, and other people that took my classes. I work with a lot of stunt people, stunt coordinator, and stunt performer they do. And a lot of times, and what I saw that a lot of those people were really coming for one thing. Maybe it was the acrobatic, maybe they knew what they're coming for, and they came for that, and that's what they were focusing on. And what was very refreshing with you is, in a sense, you're really doing a research, like the way it feels to me that you're doing a research, you're really going down to the roots. For one thing is, you came with such an open mind that I haven't seen from people that are already established in a different movement practice. So in other words, most of the time people, they already have their own thing, they know in what they're doing. So if they want to enrich, they know exactly what they come, and they want one thing, but they still, what they know that they come to do their own thing. But you come, you almost, when you come to the class, it feels to me like you almost forget your hand balancer. You come in and you want to be a capoeirista. So whether it's the fighting and you go in a fight, I was thinking, oh, you're going to be afraid about your hands, you know, takedowns and this kind of, but you're like, no, not even thinking about it. And then, you know, with acrobatic, and you just so, you absorb it, you come to take the music classes and you play on the little hand drums and all kind of stuff. So stuff that you just come in to absorb the art and really understand the roots and everything as deep as you can. And I can see that thinking and the process, and I know that that's how you approach it. I know that that's obviously with your art, it's very encompassing and has a lot of depth, much more than I've seen with a lot of balancer. And I know that you a true researcher, you're going down to the depth, you have a lot of patience and a lot of hunger for this information. And even in my class, the way you absorb and become a capoeirista, you know, is so fast. I see that on you. Your body just eats it up, and I right away see it, which is, you know, definitely a very high body intelligence that I rarely get to encounter. Obviously, the background of the handstand give you a high control of your body to do that. But it just, for me, it's so rewarding and amazing to really see how quickly that happened. And you know, it's the body and the head and everything that happened there. I see that, and I'm in awe. So just have to say that.
Oh no, thanks, man. Yeah, I like to, that's the thing, I like to dive into different worlds, so to speak, different, I wouldn't call it baubles, but for now I'll call it baubles, and this is kind of what happened to me in the recent few years, where I felt like I had a lot more to offer than what I initially started out as, which is hand balancing. I mean, I was doing all kinds of things before in circus, before I switched to hand balancing itself, and then
what did you do in circus other than that?
You know, I used to want to be a tumbler. I loved acrobatics and juggling and aerial, you know, and I used to play when I was in kindergarten. I used to, like, my first performance was doing a scene from a play, you know, so it was more like almost a character work. And I feel like the reason why, I mean, if I'm in a capoeira class, I'm gonna transform into capoeirista, basically, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm gonna get to know the discipline and the roots of it and where it's come from, because that way it allows me to explore a very different side of myself. And I would, like I said, I suggest that to any yoga practitioners, whoever, body practitioners participating in all kinds of disciplines, you know, to really be open to transformation, because we're not one-dimensional beings, you know. We have many, not all of us, but some of us have many dimensions to them, and it's important to give each person equal attention, because they all make up of, you know, what we are right here, right now, in this room. Yeah. So yeah, man, I would say another important thing I wanted to mention was and this is something I talk about with my other friends, is you know, we talked about the process and the end result itself. Again, like my friend Victor said, if you're oriented too result oriented, then it may take away some of the precious, you know, moments and things from the process itself. I would say it's good to keep both in mind, you know, to really invest in the process and enjoy your results. And you will enjoy your results if you invest in the process itself. But yeah, it's a personal journey for everyone.
Right, definitely, yeah. Different people have to take it completely different ways to find it, and if you look at the result, but definitely the process is so rewarding. The little wins that you have along the way, they're just so satisfying.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's incredible. And then again, for anyone who's interested in hand balancing practice, I would say it's good to have clear goals, and it's good to know why you're doing it, you know what I mean? And it's good to believe that it's all in your hands, really. You know, it doesn't really depends so much on the teacher that you have, but it depends more on the drive that you have, and the motivation that you have will lead you to the right person.
Right.
You know, and like I said, every time anyone takes class from me, I'm telling them that I'm teaching you the way I see it and the way I understand it, and then you can go out there and find something that works for you personally.
So true.
And then anything that I talk about as far as like some of my posts that you see on social network, it's all, I would say it's all foundation. It's the transcript of the balance in the storytelling form, so to speak. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm just basically balancing is one of the reflections of what I am, so to speak. You know, there's many other ways to artistically express yourself. It's just one of the ways,
so
and there are many other ways, just like for you.
Right, of course. But one thing I want to respond to what you said about the coaching, the teacher, because you know, I've been in the world of teaching since I started. You know, with Capoeira, so I've had like some 20 years of being, more than 20 years of being around teaching and seeing so many teachers. And it's interesting because you always see every teacher is a different person, and the people that come, many times like you see what they have in common in a teacher. So people resonate with one person, they might not go for another one, or sometimes people switch, but all in all, you see that each teacher has a different style, and which communicate that, you know, differences for different people. And then also another thing that I always find is that teachers tend to come with every teacher has his own philosophy, that at the end of the day really glorifying the way he is.
Right.
Like the philosophy always show why the way the teacher is the best way to be, and then as soon as they go there, they believe in that, which is great. I mean, that's how it should be. But then there's many ways, like you said, everyone different things might work for them, and there's many ways to skin the cat. There's not just one way, but definitely you should have 100% belief and confidence in your teacher that he's taking you in the best way, and it should be the best way that resonates with you as a student, hopefully according also to inner research, that you find some things about yourself, so you have an educated reason why you took one teacher or another. Sometimes, you know, you end up being maybe with the teacher for the wrong reason, and it might not really take you to find who you are, but become like a complete zombie after that teacher, and not really develop your own self identity in the process or something.
Exactly. Yeah, I would say never be too crazy about the big name teachers or anything like that. I feel like it should never be the case about the cult of personality, so to speak. It should be the case of knowledge. You know, the knowledge is the star of any workshop. You know, the teacher is just a trend. You know, he's receiving and he's transmitting. It's just the person that's, you know, knowledge comes through them, but the knowledge itself is the star of the process.
Right.
And it's kind of like in terms of like finding your own way and your own self and your own personality in your practice. Is like my friend Kate Conklin. She's an excellent Alexander technique teacher and a singer, and she said one thing to me. She's like, she said that one time I heard a story where a group of people came to a writing workshop, you know, to learn how to write stories. And a teacher, this one guy that everyone was really inspired by, he came in and he said hello to everyone, and then he took out portraits of like 5 or 6 different big name writers, and he said to the people, he said, well, you see all of these people? I mean, he says, hello, how are you today? Look at all these people. Do you know what all of them had in common? What? They never took writing workshop. And he left.
Funny.
So it's basically, there's always stuff inside of you that speaks the truth. It's just, like I said, if your motivation comes from an authentic place, it will lead you to all the right places. But like I said, never forget yourself.
Yeah.
Because teachers have different agendas, you know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right,
We're all
right.
still people.
Yeah.
You know, whatever you see
Like
on
in a sense, they also have their own ego. Like what you say, you
Yeah,
don't want to
sure.
trap in someone else's ego,
Exactly.
but you want to find the pure knowledge that they basically transmit through all the process that they've been through, and they
Right.
can already have certain scene and understanding. So, but ultimately, it's really to develop the practitioner and not
Yeah.
to make a god out of the teacher per se.
No, sure,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, it's about knowledge, not
Yeah.
about the cult.
Yeah, and about development for people to really take themselves to the next level, because there's so much I feel like also spirituality in this body practice, and people
Sure.
can really develop mentally.
Sure.
Obviously, it's not just the body is only the
It's a
what we
manifestation.
see. It's just a manifestation, but we try to develop ourselves up here through this type of body practice. So obviously, if we get too trapped in glorifying someone as opposed to look internally and use their help, thank you very much for the help, that helped so much, and now I can become a better person. And if we all do that and
Right.
become better people, hopefully, and that kind of brings me to the thing I want to talk about, the philosophy that we have behind our art form, because in a sense, we have a vision and we want to see the planet go. You tell me one day, and you told me, you know, all these videos that we see on the pets are so cute, and you said one day animal will not be afraid of us. You know, that was some, I don't remember how we got to that conversation, but that was some beautiful concept. I remember I told you that I was going to adapt that one, but now I'm trying to remember how did we get to talk about that one.
I think we had just finished like a long workout, and we were having a meal, and I was looking at your fish. I was looking at all your aquariums, and I remember I heard it from a source, so to speak, which said that one day when people are ready, the animals will accept them into their own kingdom. Basically, we're
Yeah.
just not up to the level yet, because we're dividing everything, dividing
Right,
rules,
right,
so to
right.
speak. But
Yeah, because we live in an imaginary world that we created
Right.
with so many concepts that don't exist in the nature, like money.
yeah,
and death,
exactly.
And so it's just artificial world, and we get caught onto it. It becomes our whole reality, which is completely imaginary. It's like someone doing drugs and living in his own head,
Right.
not really seeing what other people see. Only here we share, we agree on certain values of money, whatever. We buy into this whole game that separate us from nature and from the connection. But then on the other hand, we are also like hunter-gatherers, so we're supposed to also eat this animal, which is also interesting. But I feel like there's an elegance in nature. Like even though you hunt an animal, like I eat meat, but my fish, they'll come in my hand and I can pet them. I eat fish, but not my fish.
Well, as long as there's a right reason for everything, like in one of the African tribes, and I'm sure they're doing throughout the world, where there was a custom before where once they shot the animal, they'll come to it and they say, well, forgive me for doing this,
Right.
but I really need your meat to feed my family, and thank you so much for your sacrifice, so to speak.
Yeah, I read that one. I
That
don't know what it was.
relationship is a very far cry from what we have now.
Right.
So, yes, but
That's another thing. Like I like biology, and I was writing my blogs and I compare
Right.
things to nature. And that's one thing that I like scuba dive, and I go in the Red Sea in Israel. We have like a beautiful area. One of the probably the prettiest I've seen, and I've scuba dive Caribbean and many
Nice.
places. But you go in there and you see so many fish and coral and everything looks so slow and so peaceful and colorful, and you're thinking, wow, everyone get along. But you
Right.
don't know behind the scene that everyone eats everyone all the time, and it's really vicious. But most of the time you don't see it because it's so elegant looking. And I think that's like
Sure.
you said, like we can be elegant about it. We don't need to be mean and cruel and in a
Right.
sense I think a lot of the ideas of money and greed kind of bring out that cruelty in us, and
Sure.
kind of strengthen the capitalism and the strong and the weak, as opposed to being elegant and more taking our harmony to a more natural place.
Yeah, I feel like if we're talking about symbology, I feel like from what I observed in capoeira practice, there's a lot of, if we're speaking of harmony,
Right.
I feel like a lot of people in general, our bodies are so stiff. Like the older we get, older and wiser, you know what I'm saying? It's great to watch people get wiser and get better, but a lot of the times the older we get, the more stiff we become and the more programmed we're starting to act like robots on an everyday basis. And so even for me, like I'm a student, at capoeira. I'm just a student, and it takes it takes a certain amount of I wouldn't say relaxation, but in a way, in order to be able to develop the rhythm where things come to you. You know what I'm saying? Where it's not just a programmed response or a programmed routine, but it's rather a natural way of moving where you can improvise and come up with stuff on the spot. And so if you're speaking of harmony, I feel like the way you move in capoeira practice is very harmonical in a way where there's always a geometry to your movement, and I'm working on developing that as well.
Yeah.
So
which you have in your field, but this is just a different dimension.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why it's good to let your body.
And that's another thing that's so unique about your practice, because so many hand balancers, they're so muscling and lock so hard in the position, and you just relax and you go on one hand and you just dance there and go anywhere you want, and there's no stiffness at all, but then you balance it on one hand. I mean, that's like such a magic. That's like right there is like a whole different perspective on balancing on one arm. From, you know, it becomes such a trendy thing, and everyone will understand the hand, and people looking up to see, well, what's at the top. Obviously you are at the top, and then what you bring in is a whole different light, a whole different shine that for me makes so much more sense. That's how I move in capoeira, and then that's how I want to move on one hand. Hopefully one day mix the two so I can do on one hand and just do capoeira up there and maybe come down after 10 minutes.
Right. No, yeah, I mean, I would say I think there's a lot of great hand balancers on the scene today. To be honest, I don't really follow what's happening there. To be honest, I don't really get together with people and practice handstand. I'm starting to do that more now in our capoeira practice.
Yeah.
But like I said, there's so many more things in my life right now that I want to grow toward. That I would say there's a lot of great sources to learn from in the hand balancing scene, and the way what I have to offer perhaps it's original to who I am as a person, and that's why you might perceive it as different from what's happening there today. I mean,
definitely, because what I see is a pattern, everyone looking the same, and definitely you have character and personality in there, and doing such a hard technical skill.
The thing is, like, yeah, I'm trying to figure out the easiest way to do something, you know, like what's the easiest, absolutely easiest way, and you'll be surprised how easy it can be to do some of those elements, you know, if you're just
once you know where to go in your body, just go and you're automatic, huh?
Right. Like I said, you know, extraordinary physical skills is a result of extraordinary states of mind. You know, if you tune into a certain wave, so to speak, if you're so in the moment, you're so concentrated, you can literally make your body lighter. You can make it light, lighter than it normally is, and then all your balance is basically like being underwater. And when you're underwater, it feels like, you know, there's a million butterflies tapping you gently with their wings, listening to your every desire. Basically, you can float around, float in like in the water, and nothing. The gravity is becoming your friend. But those are, like I said, those are certain states of mind that you enter, and everybody has that, really. I mean, this is what I wanted. I watched other practitioners, you know, other hand balancers, the way they do things, and then I thought to myself, okay, I've seen as many ways to do it as possible. What do I want to see? And so I'm doing what I want to see out there.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's interesting what you told me. Kind of make me think about it when you say with the butterfly and lift you. Yeah. It made me think about yoga and meditation, because you get into that state and you feel like that, and it doesn't really take much body skill to sit there, breathe right, and get to this butterfly. So the only thing that I can think of, this is kind of like a nice, because I feel like in a sense it's a meditation, but you can actually prove it, because everyone gets to be like, yeah, you're there, obviously. But when I see someone saying like this, I don't know if the butterfly lifted them or not. They know, but I don't know if I can believe it. If I didn't see what you, I can see it's more empirical, more scientific.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like I said, imagination versus physical abilities, when you combine that together, you get a very interesting mix, you know, because everything is interconnected. You know, the scientists say the more we try to dissect any one thing, the more we realize how much it is connected to everything else in the universe.
Right.
And so, like I said, it can be anything. You know, you could be a great cook, or you could be a cab driver, you could be a yoga practitioner, or a Tai Chi practitioner, or a financier. You can tap into that, your own personal channel, to get the information that you need. All it takes is a little quieting of the mind, and then the answers come.
Right.
And I guess what we're talking about here is how I guess we're trying to turn people's attention to the fact that how much there is underneath the end product. You know what I'm saying? Like, all the books that you read, that I read, all the topics that we're talking about, they all make up the things that we do on the surface, so to speak. They all supplement what the people see.
Yeah.
And so the education, self-education, is extremely important.
Right.
You know, things that personally interest you, the books about all kinds of topics to make you educated and a positive person. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. So now, if we want to talk about a book a little bit, I'm not sure what it's going to be called yet. It'll come, but and why I wanted both of us, to work on it, because I was offered this idea by one of my students. His name is Ed Zaragoza. He's an excellent a doctor. You know, he's a physician. He's a yoga practitioner, and he's my hand balancing student. And during one of the classes, when I was again explaining, the way I explain things is that I'm giving you a symbolical representation of any particular pose or skill, so that we're not talking in terms of, okay, the shoulder, the elbow. No, we're talking about...
It's very holistic. You definitely, like you said, you take the whole picture. You don't just take one part, but you do it. Definitely, as we did with me, with also so different. I was always so focused on one thing to do right, the other thing, but one thing changed, everything else has changed, so you cannot really separate.
Right, yeah. It all, one thing affects the other thing, and you know it very well.
In many places you end up coming to a place where it doesn't feel safe.
Sure.
And that's where you were taking me. Like, I always noticed those changes. I worked from different places,
right,
but I always did very safely, and in a sense you kind of disregard that sentiment. Like, I don't need to be safe anymore, which I like a lot. So that definitely, the way you teach is much more like my art than the way I've been training my balancing, which, interesting enough, so different, coming to end up at maybe similar place and giving just as detailed work, but with a whole different, from a whole opposite direction, which is just fascinating. Indeed, how many ways to learn it and how it supplement each other.
Yeah, you know, my way is just another way to learn it. It is in no way is it better or worse. I don't want to be better than anybody else, but I don't want to be worse than anybody else either.
Yes, exactly. At least not the worst.
Right.
It's another step. It's okay, but definitely not the worst.
Definitely not the worst, exactly. That's just for every person, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I mean, the way I've learned it is quite, like, my friends would be stopping in the middle of the practice and talking, okay, you know, this is how many degrees you have to move in order for your elbow to lock, and then where you look at, and your shoulder, and all of that, I had to put up a wall, a firewall around me, and just practice, because I felt like I could rely on my impulse. I saw what I liked, and then I worked toward it, you know. So maybe my way is quite, it's a non-traditional way of approaching things, but I know everyone says that, and that's why I needed your help to compile all that information together to put a technical stamp on it, where there's food for your imagination, but then there's also technical directories for you to follow in order to get to a certain level to obtain the skill. So yeah, like I said, the idea for this manual was given to me by one of my students, and basically we're gonna have, the first section of it is going to be starting from zero, going to before mid-level, before, you know, medium level of any practitioner in hand balancing, and, you know, the stretching and all kinds of you know, exercises to help you understand the alignment and what it takes to really balance, and then also the conditioning, which is really important. And we're gonna compile all of that knowledge, yours and mine, together, and then at the end there will be probably about 20 different subjects that like I expand on each of them, and we're gonna have your things as well. You know, we're gonna have both of us, both of our views on certain things that supplement the practice.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's.
I know.
We're gonna work on that.
Yeah. And also, we already did like a little event together, some seminar, and seemed like, you know, we're working. We kind of coming up with so many ideas, and I think definitely we're looking to have some joint also seminar and events that we can work with some people and kind of maybe come from those different things that definitely work together really well.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, man. Well, like I said, I'm open to anything, and I'm in a lot of different worlds at the moment, and
right. I mean, you travel all over the place and perform. Well, also, that's another thing that I was gonna ask, because you came from the Cirque. I mean, you worked in Leuven. I don't know what you did before, but also that's been a while that now you've been traveling around. What is it like, really? You know, working in a circus, and you know, what was it like in Vegas?
You know, working, my life right now is basically a dream come true. But that was the dream when I was probably 14, 15. From that time, this is the dream come true right now.
Yes.
Right now I have
of course.
For the next 15, 20 years, and those are the ones I'm going to be working towards, because one of my dreams have already came true. And so this life is, I've always wanted to travel. That's one thing. When you grow up in the Soviet Union, and I was born in Moldova, USSR, basically. I was born when Soviet Union was still intact.
Yeah.
And then I was 4 years old, it fell apart, and then the very republic where the land where I was living, it got itself separated from Moldova, so it is a piece of land that not one country on earth recognized. So it basically doesn't exist. And you can imagine the kinds of walls around us that you know, rose overnight, and then the whole economy, everything fell apart. But my parents were heroes, and they did an amazing job at like staying afloat, and me and my brother, they were telling us that we could do anything we wanted. And yeah, just follow my dream was to travel and to create art and to do circus and stuff like that, you know. And I went to Kiev Circus School, went through a lot of tests there, and then after that I started performing professionally at 16 years old. Germany was my first trip abroad, actually. It was a crazy experience that, you know, set the path for years to come. But I would say never hold on to any one idea too much, you know what I mean? Because the thing is, when you hold on to one idea, you're not able to see all the other ideas coming your way constantly.
Right.
You can grab any one of them and make something out of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, life is circus, just a lot of traveling, a lot of cool people, a lot of difficult experience, and a lot of mind expanding and life propelling experience that you have. Yeah.
Interesting.
So in my work, it's always been.
Maybe you can tell me like one mind-propelling idea that you came across, or something, experience that happened that is just...
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned that in the manual, in the book that we're gonna have. I'm mentioning one of those. I mean, it's kind of, it was like a rebirth for me, because in around 2008/9 that was the time in my life where I truly accepted the fact that everything I was working towards is ruined. I messed up all of it because of some of the choices that I made, and I truly.
That's when you left the Vegas.
Yeah, right? After Leuven, when I came back home to Ukraine, I was quite confused.
You came back to Ukraine after Leuven?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Oh.
Yeah, I came back to Ukraine. I was very confused. I didn't have inspiration. The life in Ukraine is very difficult. People are looking for ways to survive. They're not looking to buy tickets to watch the show, you know, and that kind of got to me. I was like, oh shit, so what do I do that's important? Because what I'm doing now, standing on my hands, I'm not feeling like this contributes to society, you know. And then I came back to Vegas, and I took I took about a month to hike every day. And then, you know, that was one of my personal tests. I had no hiking gear or anything, and I climbed it was called French Mountain, and that was my that was my redemption. And I climbed on top, and I yelled at the top of my lungs, you know, I wished for certain things, and all of them came true.
Oh, wow.
You know, and like even my move to LA changed everything. You know what I mean? Me moving to LA about 3 years ago changed everything. That was an eye-opening experience because this was the place where everyone is an artist of some kind. There's graffitis everywhere. There's street scene where there's break dancers and, you know, all kinds of artistic and sources to gain wisdom from.
Yeah.
And it totally changed my life. Like what you saw in the past 3 years was because I moved to LA. Yeah.
Interesting.
So and yeah, it just keeps going. I don't know where it leads, but I'm going to basically continue for as long as I should. You know?
Of course, yeah, but that's what we do. Right? We just move forward and expand ourselves.
That's what's happening. And so yeah, anything, be it performing, be it teaching workshops, be it a certain you know, putting the knowledge on paper and putting it out there, all of that, like I said, anything, and, you know, the subject that we're talking about, it's all important part of our development. And, you know, philosophy and things like that, I like to think of it as in practical terms, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because words have power, you know, and books have a lot of power, a lot more power than some of the things that you watch on TV.
Right.
You know, so you can, anyone that's confused in any way, if you just find the right book, and a lot of them are confusing, but if you, in my practice, like some of the books completely changed my life.
Yeah.
You know, so I encourage everyone.
Right.
To
I mean, it happened to me so many times. I mean, I feel like with books you can really find some of the genius and deep people around that lived in different time periods, and you can just get to the bottom of the brain and dig in and get so much. There's so much knowledge of this planet that mankind have acquired, and through books is really where you can, you know exactly what you're going for, and you can really find so much and educate yourself. Like definitely, like nothing else, self-education. You get what you want, what you're hungry for.
Right. Yeah, always, whenever, you know, some people ask me like, oh, do you have a religion? You know, what is the religion that you're? And I don't have a religion. You know, like I'm a Christian, right? And there's a lot of misconceptions about what Christianity is and what prayer does and things like that. And you know, I think all faith, all wisdom is just dressed up differently. You know, there are people that take wisdom and they twist it and they use it to their means. And you saw a lot of those examples of bad religion, you know. But I feel like the true knowledge is always there. True wisdom is just dressed up differently. And if you don't put labels on any of the major religions that you have, they will all tell basically the same thing.
Right.
Know?
There's definitely a lot of beautiful concepts, but
yeah.
Definitely, it's interesting that religion is still such a strong power. I mean, I'm sure, you know, around us, and we feel a lot of people like us, so they're not really religious, but but still, it seems like such a strong force in nowadays all over the world. Still, even though it seems so outdated. I mean, if you read those scripts, they're so horrifying. Eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, and you know, in our religion that we come from, we supposedly say that that's old school, and we're not really act. But then you look at Islam and they do act on it, so they take it literally. But then it's so, but still, the religion we come from still say those things in the Bible and in the Old and New Testament. I mean, at the time that they wrote it and where it came from horrible realities. It definitely doesn't. So it has side by side to those horrible things. It has beautiful things, and it's almost like, well, yeah, I can get the beautiful things if I can find them elsewhere. Like, why even look at that religion? And it's just like outdated. Like, we don't want to create this kind of world. We want to come from a different premises and not for these flawed premises that mankind seem to be living horrible. Most mankind's had quite horrible existence for thousands of years that we've been doing to ourselves. We created our own human bubble. We look at animal nature, they look happy. Why don't people happiness seems to haven't been really important throughout our history, whether Middle Ages or whether before that, or nowadays even. Like nowadays in America, it's about self-fulfillment and people being individual, but we still believe in capitalism that creates so much suffering, and you know, people to be rich have to take it for someone else. For us to gain interest on the money, it comes from somewhere. It's not from nothing. So it seems like that whole concept anyways.
No, yeah. We always like to have middleman in terms of like, okay, your connection to God.
Right.
Here's a middleman. We'll take care of it. You just come, to our house, so to speak, and you do what we tell you. But I feel like, animals have no middleman. They're connected
Right.
to the source straight up. They're not thinking. They're
And
moving.
kids are.
And kids are
connected
the
to
same.
source straight up.
Everyone has, any time of the day you can access the source, just find it in yourself, and it'll lead you,
Yeah.
it has your best interest in mind.
In nature, when it gives you a life, it doesn't expect you to give sacrifices for it or to pay him back
Right.
for it. It just wants you to be happy and enjoy
Yeah.
what he gave you. Animals don't feel like they live in debt for any reason, that they're enjoying their life and playing around. And kids, they don't owe nothing to anyone. The parents, they work really hard to keep them, but the kids
Right.
don't necessarily owe the parents anything for that. They do, but gratitude and appreciation, if the parents are good parents, that's about it.
Yeah, I think all of us are, if you think in terms of like all of humanity as a big family, it's really hard because we're so compartmentalized, but I think it's slowly going to, like, I'm personally very antisocial.
Yeah, funny.
We're talking about all of this, but I
Yeah.
personally am not comfortable around groups of people, or big groups of people, or small groups of people.
But then you're a performer, and you do
And
such
I'm
an
a
amazing
performer,
job,
and it's a
you get the
twisted
emotion out of
paradox.
the crowd. You do that.
Right. So it's just accepting who you are, and I'm accepting. There's a lot of limitations that I have, and I don't expect me to see me in a big crowd, of followers and stuff like that. I'm still figuring my stuff out, and
But you have a big follower.
but I have a
You're
lot
so
to
amazing.
offer, and I have a lot of things to say, and it's a learning process. So like I said, the only person you should look up to is well, it's not even a person, it's a force that created everything. So, and it's within you, within each and every one of you. And so none of us are the same, but one thing that connects. What I like to create is like to create beauty, and I like to make you feel something with what I do. It's never a story that it is a literal story. It's something that I want anyone who watches it to interpret it their own way. I'm gonna give you enough food for thought to kind of get the idea, but then you put your imagination needs to finish what you receive.
Yeah.
And that way you get your own personal opinion and reasons for why, you enjoy this. What does it do for you? What do you take? What do you learn from it? And yeah, man, it's, inspiration is the fire that starts it destroys everything to give you birth to the new amazing forest that is you.
Yeah.
It burns within, and then you find ways to pick up things and
Right.
find your own path
Right.
and follow it. So yeah, this is basically what we're doing.
Yep.
Just moving forward one step at a time, and just sharing what's been brewing in the
sharing
chest.
the love and the passion.
Yeah.
Exactly. Hope it makes an
Alright.
effect, and hope we can, get a strong effect to make things better and make people more fulfilled and happy and do good and feeling good with themselves, and on so many levels. Hope we can do that.
Sure. Yeah. This is where
hope people get inspired enough to really take it and apply.
Absolutely, I agree, man. And this is where the body discipline comes from. Like, take care of your body first, and then your whole life will reflect how healthy your body
Right,
is.
and the body is a reflection of
Yeah.
what's inside of it, and
Yeah.
if the body or how you express that body, of course, you can look at these things and you can know it's the eyes for the soul, right?
Exactly, it's the window into the world.
Yeah.
It's if you don't have body, you don't have this experience.
Right.
So a lot of our problems come from the unhealthy body, and the body that
It's
isn't
just connected.
moving
It's like I don't know if it come from, but it's like who came first, the chicken or the egg, right?
Right.
It's a whole
There's
thing.
always
It's a whole thing.
sure. So yeah, it's everything is interconnected.
Yeah.
And many layers.
Right. People just so conditioned into that separation.
Right, I agree. I agree, but it's a personal journey for everyone to change that and to find their passion and their light, and yeah, everyone's on their own personal ride.
Yeah. Well, I think we're kind of getting here to the end of the time we have for this thing, but thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure, my man.
Yeah.
My pleasure, and yeah, I don't even know what else to say. I mean, there's nothing really to add except for
maybe we'll do another one, and we can, you know, who knows, we'll see what's the feedback on this one. People want to hear us talk about other things or whatever, we can always do it.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Cool. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed, and feel free to put in a comment, whatever, any thought that you had, contribute to our conversation or ideas. We love to hear.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Have a great day.